Do you feel like your art skills have stopped growing and that by now you should be making better paintings, better art? Does it feel like you've hit a plateau you can't seem to push through? Well, welcome to the club. I think that happens to all of us and it can be disheartening. But today I'm going to share my experience, hoping you will find my tips and personal journey useful. First, let's clear something up. Art block is not the same thing as seeing a plateau in the growth of your skills, feeling that your art is not getting better. Art block very often has nothing to do with skills and a lot to do with emotions, you've guessed it. When basically we feel like there's a wall in front of us and we cannot create no matter how much we'd like to. It's very common to feel this way, you're not alone. If you're an artist or love making art, it happens. Let's say it's part of the journey, like the ups and downs of life. Seeing your skills plateau, feeling you are stuck at the same level is different because you are making art, but you are not seeing growth. Your art is not improving, even with effort and hours of work. Many artists report frustration that proportions, perspective, shading, colour, backgrounds, composition, and other fundamentals still feel weak after months or even years of work. And they don't know what to do. I quite honestly am very impatient and felt this way after a few weeks of painting with watercolour. Admittedly, I did paint a lot in those few weeks. But when you feel it very early on in your art journey, like I did with watercolour, the issue is that I was looking at other artists' work and comparing my work to theirs. So no surprise there that my work wasn't as good. Let's get that out of the way right off the bat. If you've just recently started making art, do not compare your work to that of other artists you see on social media. You cannot have their skill set yet. There are so many reasons why you might be stuck in a skill growth plateau, and I don't want you to feel bad about it because it means, for one, that you've got a lot of growth behind you, or you wouldn't be where you are now. So well done. Let's look at why you might be feeling this way. I mentioned a minute ago that a lot of artists say they are not seeing growth in composition, shading, perspective, style, and so on. My advice is to focus on one thing at a time. Don't look at your art as a whole. For a moment, break it down into steps and pick one. You cannot tackle them all together. This will only add to your frustration. I'll give you an example here, and this might or might not fit you, so don't take it personally. But a lot of the time, one of the basics which tends to get a little weak is, roll of drums, drawing. I have drawn on and off all my life, but at one point, after I'd started painting with watercolour, I realised that drawing was a skill I had to improve some more. It's the foundation of the building. Also, even if, like me, you've drawn a lot, but you've gone through a dry spell of not sketching, you may have got rusty. You would not believe how quickly our drawing skills can get rusty. I draw every week, sometimes every day. If I skip a week or two, I will notice I need to warm up again. So look back on how long it's been since you've practiced live sketching, sketching the objects you see around you, or going to a website like Line of Action and sketching on a short time limit, which is the closest thing to live drawing you can get without going out. Because you have to capture the image fast. The most important thing that this has taught me personally was that you can break everything down into basic shapes and then flesh them out. This really improved my skills a lot. This makes drawing so much easier, but it's a skill you have to keep well oiled, and no painting will look great without the strong foundation of a good sketch outline unless it's an abstract painting. If you are certain your issue is not drawing because maybe you've already practiced a lot, or you're still practicing, or you trace your drawings because you prefer the painting part of making art, then pick one thing you want to improve and fall into that rabbit hole of research and practice. Look up tutorials, try different techniques, and I promise you, you will be leaving that plateau behind you sooner than you know it. If you'd like to have company while you practice drawing, my Patreon is a safe space where we co-sketch live every Tuesday and have painting workshops. It's completely beginner friendly and you can take part in the live sessions or watch the recordings at your own pace. There are no deadlines and there is no pressure. I will leave the link in the description box if you're curious to check it out. Sometimes a skill growth plateau can be caused by something which very often also reflects in our everyday life. Yes, one of the biggest enemies of our artistic growth can be the comfort zone. We're repeating what we're already good at. Basically, we are tackling problems we have already solved, repeating decisions we've already made. We are confident in our confidence, and maybe we don't hate what we create, but we don't see evolution in what we create. This means we are taking no risks. We are avoiding what feels unfamiliar by always painting or drawing the same subjects or the same poses. We don't want to try something new for fear of failure. But there's something our heart often doesn't understand. Growth doesn't look like improvement while it's happening. It doesn't manifest itself while we are learning. Because we're facing something new, we are trying something for the first time. I always avoided drawing hands because I felt I was bad at it, till I went back and focused a whole month on learning how to draw and paint hands and fingers and toes and ears. It didn't feel like I was growing then, but now I can draw a hand even without a reference. I've learned an easy method where I break it down into familiar shapes. This is why so often we quit right before something works. We don't know what's around the next corner, so we stop walking, we stop growing. And this applies to art as much as it applies to life, doesn't it? Another reason you may plateau is also probably because you're already quite good. When you were a beginner, it was easier to see what was wrong with your, I won't say art, because to me nothing is ever wrong with any form of art, but let's use the expression technique. Maybe the proportions were off, or there was no three-dimensionality, so on and so forth. This is one of the most confusing plateaus to hit because very often what we need is feedback, and feedback can feel like criticism if we look for it in the wrong place. So if you don't feel confident asking for feedback, I would just advise you to lean a little more into what your style seems to be. There are videos here on my YouTube channel about style too, so I won't talk about that here. I will link them down below. I'll use my own example. I know that to improve, I have to try and paint faster because I feel that there is something pulling me in that direction. I want that looseness. I want my paintings to be more impulsive and unpredictable. I'm scared, of course I am, but for me, there is something on the other side of my hesitation, and I would like to see what that something is. However, if you feel confident looking for feedback, there are plenty of Facebook groups, including mine, where you can ask for a constructive but gentle critique. And finally, I think the most unusual reason we plateau, but it still can happen, is that our taste has outgrown our skills. At a certain point, at a certain level, your artistic eye improves faster than your hand, and you have to catch up. Feels a bit stressful, I know, but the good news is that you can catch up. Of course you can, because you've already made it all the way to where you are now, and you've developed critical thinking, you have an eye for art, and you are confident of the direction your style needs to go in. Think of how many times artists throughout history have experimented with new techniques, with something different. This means you have a bigger vision, and that is something precious. So we're kind of at that midway stage. I obviously wanted to shape this as a heart, but I felt it was like floating in the middle of the sheet of watercolor paper, and I didn't like that. So I added this kind of scarf idea, going out here and then going back in here. And it's probably going to be a night sky, again, like a video from 2 weeks ago here on YouTube, because that is going to make the main characters stand out. If it's not going to be a night sky, it's still going to be something dark, verging on blue, because it's always a good idea to use like complementary colours or colours that are on the opposite side of the colour wheel to help bring contrast and shift the focus where you want it to be. And I always like something moving. I always like the idea of movement. Now I'm going to stop painting for today because it's night out there, really dark, and I have to stop because I have to go out also. So it's good to step away from the painting and then to go back to it with fresh eyes the following morning. Hopefully it will be morning. It's getting dark so soon now that, so let's see how I feel about it tomorrow. I'm feeling quite good about it now. I wasn't quite convinced about her eyes initially, but I think that I've managed to figure them out more or less. But there's more work to be done to the eyes, to the face, and maybe a little bit to the owl as well. And this video got a bit too long and I don't have time to say anything else. I hope it was useful. Let me know in the comments. I want to thank my patrons for being the producers of all my videos and making this possible. I hope to see you over there, or I will see you all, as always, next Sunday. Bye for now.